Thank you, Madam Chair. So I have several things, and I don't know in which order you wish to take them, but I want to follow up on Senator Finley. So this is the second time in this committee where we've had a major bill. This looks like 45 pages of a bill that we're not going to hear in a Senate Policy Committee. And, I've heard before that we wanted to find a way for that to happen, because we're not bicameral anymore, at least not on major issues. So we're just going to have one side or the other decide the policy, and then we're going to come have to Ways and Means and have a short discussion about the financial parts of it. And I'm just unclear from the last debate on 2005, because, it said, well, we don't want to cut off policy debate in a previous committee, and then we did cut off policy debate. And I have policy and constitutional issues that I need to ask. So are we going to be able to ask those questions? I mean, do we have Elsie here?
Elsie is here.
Yes, Madam Co-Chair and Senator Knopp, we have two online and then two watching if they need to come into the room.
Okay, so am I able to ask policy questions then?
I would say, yes, Senator, I understand that this is a difficult conversation. I would say that you can ask certainly some questions. I don't want to cut off debate, and I do understand that this is a difficult conversation. And I also just want to say very much, unfortunately, like the last conversation we had, we end up with a time issue. We do have a committee that starts at 5:30, and that's unfortunate just because of where we sit with our own time schedules. I will do the best I can, and I might have to just say, we'll stop at a certain point.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, but maybe we shouldn't rush the bill. Here's my first question. So we're not going through a policy committee on the Senate side. So are we going to keep an open record for 48 hours for people to submit testimony then for the constituents that aren't going to get represented from the Senate? Can we keep the record open?
Sure.
For people to submit written testimony?
Madam Co-Chair, Senator Knopp, this is a work session and not a public hearing, so I don't believe we accept testimony.
Okay, so we're not going to be able to do that. So so I just want to read the summary, just part of the summary of this bill. So it makes statutory change to achieve gender-neutral language with respect to unlawful employment discrimination because of sex. Declares public policy regarding interstate actors rising out of reproductive health care and gender-affirming treatment. Prohibits public body from participating in interstate investigation or proceeding involving reproductive health care and gender-affirming treatment. Creates exceptions. Prohibits clerk of court from issuing subpoena if foreign subpoena recreates exceptions. Prohibits subpoena relates to reproductive health care or a gender-affirming care. Declares Oregon law governs certain actions arising out of reproductive health care or gender-affirming treatment provided or received in the state. So I even had trouble reading it, and I don't think I read it at a very small level, but that is super confusing. And I've had constituents say they don't even understand what the bill is actually doing. And I get, it's 45 pages. But I just think that even the summary of this bill, let alone the language of it, is complicated and confusing. And, we only have 35 minutes to discuss this. And I, of course, don't want to take up all the time. But one of the questions I have is about, in this bill, it's clear that it affects a parent's right to have information about their child and make healthcare decisions. And under the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, my understanding is that the court upheld the fundamental right for a parent to oversee care, custody, and control of a child. So how does that right interface with this bill, and how is this bill not unconstitutional under that provision? So if somebody from Legislative Council could answer that, would be great.
Elsie would be great.
Yes, if we can have someone. Oh, there we are.
Excuse me. Hi, I'm Lori Ann Sills with Legislative Council, and thanks for having me here, Chair Sanchez. Senator Knopp, you asked about the 14th Amendment and parental rights and how this bill does not violate those? Is
Yep.
that- Excuse me. It's been a while since I've testified. Rep. Sanchez and Senator Steiner, Senator Knopp, the U.S. Supreme Court has recognized that parents have a fundamental right under the 14th Amendment to the care, custody, and control of their children. And they have said that that right's not necessarily absolute, though. So as long as the state has a legitimate public reason or public policy reason for interfering with that right, they can. The standard for testing whether the state's justification for interfering with that right is sufficient is something more than just rational basis. It's just you have to have some sort of a reason for getting in there. And so if the legislature has a sufficient public policy purpose for allowing minors to make medical decisions without their parents' consent, then that probably would not violate the 14th Amendment, but it would really be up to the court to decide.
Okay, just a follow-up to that. So in this bill, at what age can a child make the determination on their own without parental consent to have an abortion?
Chair Sanchez, Chair Steiner, Senator Knopp, under the current law, it's not entirely clear at what age a minor can make the determination to have an abortion without parental consent. Under House Bill 2002A, however, it's a minor of any age can make that determination.
So follow-up, so a 10-year-old can make that decision on their own then?
No.
Chair Sanchez, Senator Steiner, yes.
10-year, no.
No.
10-year-old?
I didn't think so for that. I thought it was, okay.
15.
I'm looking it up. Okay.
Sorry, let me clarify, Rep. Sanchez, Senator Steiner, Senator Knopp. Under the House Bill 2002, a minor of any age can make reproductive health care decisions, and that includes undergoing an abortion.
Wow. All right, well, that's just shocking. I do have another question. So I understand that this bill removes ORS 167820, which says that it's a crime to conceal the birth of an infant. So I think the ORS is something like if a person conceals the corpse of a newborn child with the intent to conceal the fact of its birth or to prevent a determination of whether it was born dead or alive. So why, I don't understand if we're going to repeal that, if a baby is born alive after an abortion attempt, under this bill, does that baby have a right to life, to live? And then, if so, is there, this bill would prevent the determination of whether or not that child was born alive or not? And so, I'm asking, is nobody going to be held accountable if a baby is born alive under this bill because of the repeal of that language?
Chair Sanchez, Chair Steiner, Senator Knopp. Section 52 repeals ORS 167-820, which is the crime of concealing the birth of an infant. However, it only repeals that particular crime. that's like the exact description of that crime is no longer subject to separate criminal sanction, but depending on the circumstances and the particular situation, concealing the corpse of an infant could constitute, for instance, abuse of a corpse, or tampering with evidence, and separately killing of a live infant itself would probably be a form of homicide.
Just a follow-up. So wouldn't repealing this law then allow a baby to be born alive after a failed abortion if it was left to die? Have no consequence then?
Chair Sanchez, Senator Steiner, Senator Knopp, nothing in the repeal of 167-820 would affect that particular situation.
Okay. I'll let others ask questions. I don't want to hog the time, Madam Chair.